What you see here is something I'm not particularly proud of. Obviously, the first thing is this engine bay is filthy, but obviously I use this vehicle, so that's to be expected. The second problem I have is all the wiring I've got going on everywhere. And this is all just for one set of lights, and that's the little ditch lights that I have up here on my hood. The way my buttons work inside the vehicle is they have to have a relay. So I've got this relay here, and then I've got wires obviously powering the relay, wires going to the button, and then the wires going off to the light. So there's lots of wires. And if I want to add in more lights, and actually I've got more lights, I've got some on my bumper there, I've got some fog lights, I've got some dust lights up front. If I want to add more lights with this setup, I'm going to have a series of relays all down the side here. But thankfully, I had Auxbeam send me this. This is their little switch panel. It's got 8 switches on it, and it all comes in this little self-contained unit. I'm actually really excited to have this because it's going to clean up a lot of what's going on in here. So let's go inside. We'll check out what's in the box before we come back out and install it. So inside the box, you get an instruction manual and a bunch of stickers, and the stickers go on the switch panel that I have here. So you've got 8 switches, 8 possible switches, plus there's a center switch there, and I'll show you what that does later. I wouldn't recommend sticking these on just yet. I'd wire everything up and then put the stickers on. With the switch panel, you get a little mounting bracket like this, and you get a couple of wires. This one connects the switch panel to the main control unit, and this is the control unit. In here, let's open it up. We've got a bunch of fuses, a bunch of connections for the lights, and then the way this works is the wires come in below, and then they wire up into each of these. And they've got a little sticker with a little amp rating on here, so each of them's set to a different amp rating. I'll put that there. That also has a mounting bracket, which is in here somewhere at the bottom. You get these big heavy-duty wires to hook up to the battery, and it is fused. So you get this nice little 60 amp fuse that you can use. So the maximum rating you can use, the maximum amps you can run through this is 60 amps for the whole unit. Individual lights have different amp ratings. So like I said, these ones, these two at the start here, these are 30 amps, and then it drops down 20, 20, 10, 10, 5, 5. But altogether you can't have any more than 60 amps going through the whole unit. And then some hardware. A few more wires. This is just to control the backlighting on the switch panel, and again I'll show you how that works later. Another little bracket thing, some zip ties, and here's the main mount. So you got the main mount here for the main control unit. So let's get all this outside again. We'll hook it up. I'll show you how it works. Actually, I need to drill a couple of holes. I pulled this out a little earlier. This is where I'm going to mount the switch panel. So this goes in the Forerunner. This is just left of the steering wheel. So I'm going to mount this. It's going to go on here. I already marked a couple of holes. And then this will be right next to the steering wheel, like that. So let's go get installing this. Let's wire up some lights. Another nice thing that I like about this is that it's all controlled using just the one cable. So with my previous setup where I only had one switch in there at the moment, but if I was to add more switches, for every single switch I add, I need to have another wire come through to feed the relay. But with this setup, it doesn't matter how many you add, you've just got this one wire. And this goes from basically what's the control box here, this plugs in. This goes through to the switch panel that's inside. And it is a little large. You can see that it's a little more than will fit through. There's a little hole here in the firewall. It's a little more than will fit through that, but I'm actually going to feed it through. I don't know if you can see, but there is a gasket here. I'm just going to cut a little hole in it, stretch it out, and push it through, and run that up to the switch panel. Of course, if space is limited, you can still cut this wire and then resolder it. It just has 4 wires on the inside. They're all color-coded, so you could just, like I say, cut them and then resolder them back into the correct place. So it wouldn't be too big of a deal if you didn't have a rubber gasket like I do there. I'm gonna mount the control unit itself down here in this space that I've got. This is the mount that comes with it, and what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna unbolt the vehicle's fuse box and relay box and slide this underneath so it holds it vertically like that. Now, in holding it vertically, it does mean that I'm not going to be able to see as easily what's going on in here, and I'm going to have to wire everything up before I mount it down there. But replacing the fuses is actually really easy. You can see, I don't know if you can see, but there's little LEDs down here, and these light up when the fuse is bad. So it's not a huge deal that it's going to be a little inaccessible. And I've got some extra spare fuses there, a little fuse puller as well. The hardest part of the whole installation was definitely just getting the switch panel cable through the rubber gasket. Once that was done, everything else was super easy. All you have to do to add lights is loosen the screw for the positive, insert the wire, and tighten the screw up again. You can then do the same for the negative, or you can ground to the vehicle elsewhere. You can fit 2 12-gauge wires into each of the slots, so there's plenty of room if you want to put wires in for a left and a right light. I repeated the steps for each of the sets of lights until I had all 4 sets wired up, and I attached the positive and the negative cables. The positive went to the battery via the 60 amp fuse, and a negative went to a grounding spot that's on the body of the vehicle. You'll also need to plug in the cable to the switch panel and the power cable for the switch panel. You can mount the bracket wherever you want, but it fit really well alongside the vehicle's fuse box in the 4Runner. The only other thing to do is to wire up the power cable for the switch panel. That's the one with the red and the white wire. The red wire can either go to a fuse tap, so that the switch panel is only powered when the vehicle is on, or you can power it constantly. I chose to power it constantly because I want to be able to turn my lights on and off when the vehicle is off, but that does mean that you're going to have a small draw from the backlighting on the switch panel. If I'm going to be leaving my vehicle off for any length of time, then I just make sure that I turn the whole system off at the fuse. The white wire controls the brightness of the backlight, and you just change it by tapping it to the positive on the battery. I've put mine on the lowest setting, which I think is just perfect. The brightest setting on there is incredibly bright. I've been using this setup for the last 2 weeks while out on my latest trip, and I absolutely love it. It's really quick and easy to use, and I like it so much more than the switches I had previously. It also looks really neat in the vehicle, and it cleans up all of the wiring that I had under the hood. The panel allows you to individually turn on the lights by pushing each of the buttons, and once they're on, you can instantly turn them all off by pushing the middle button, and then you can instantly turn all of those select lights back on again by pushing the middle button again. If you're looking for an easy solution to wiring up multiple lights, I definitely recommend this setup. I'll put links to the Auxbeam switch panel, some fuse taps, and my light setup in the description, and make sure you subscribe to the channel because I have the latest trip videos coming out really soon.